And a lot of
Nobody says
companies
you
are
need open text.
yeah, a lot of Oh, that's so funny. Inside baseball again.
Yeah.
Um
Hello and welcome to episode 287 of the Rockstar CMO effing marketing podcast, a proud member of the Marketing Podcast Network. Hope you're well and staying as sane as you feel you need to be. I'm your host, Ian Truscott. I am not a rock star, but I am a CMO, and on this podcast, I chat with a band of marketing chums who share their marketing street knowledge, which I hope will bring out the rockstar marketer in you. This week, that chum is Cathy McKnight, Chief Problem Solver at Seventh Bear, who makes her monthly visit to the studio for a dive into all things content. And this week, we wonder if the term CMS, Content Management System, is even relevant to CMOs anymore. But first, we need to pay the bar tab. I'll be back in a moment.
We'll be right back. After this word.
We'll be right back.
After this word.
Are you tired of juggling multiple software tools to manage your agency? Say hello to Deltek Workbook, the ultimate solution for marketing and communication agencies. With Workbook, you can streamline your projects, resources, and finances all in one place. Imagine real-time dashboards and reports giving you full visibility into your projects, people, and financials. Plan your team's capacity weeks in advance to avoid bottlenecks while staying on budget to maximize project margins. Plus, Workbook works perfectly for both agencies and in-house marketing teams looking to boost efficiency and profitability. And here's the best part. At PCI, we're a certified Deltek partner and reseller offering expert implementation, integrations, and ongoing support to ensure your success. Want to see how Deltek Workbook can transform your operations? For a free consultation, visit pci.us/podcast today. That's pci.us/podcast.
This episode is brought to you by Indeed. When your computer breaks, you don't wait for it to magically start working again. You fix the problem. So why wait to hire the people your company desperately needs? Use Indeed's sponsored jobs to hire top talent fast. And even better, you only pay for results. There's no need to wait. Speed up your hiring with a $75 sponsored job credit at Indeed.com/podcast. Terms and conditions apply.
Welcome back, Cathy, to Rockstar CMO. How are you?
I'm well, Ian. How are you?
I'm doing very well, thank you very much. And as I say every month when I get to chat with you, I'm very well because I'm chatting to Cathy McKnight. So who can't be well in that
You're very
situation? And how are things with you for the last month? I think it's been mostly vacation, right?
It has. Took a very nice driving holiday out to the east coast of Canada, to Cape Breton. Beautiful part of our country for anybody looking for a gorgeous holiday, and people are so nice. Played
Also so nice, they're Canadian.
well, yeah, but they're extra nice on the East Coast.
Oh, the extra nice Canadians. Good
Yeah. Can you imagine? What does that even look like? And played one of the top 5 public golf courses in Canada, which was stunning, spectacular. Taking a drive off the second tee and looking at the ocean. So that was lovely. And we had great weather and ate lots of lobster rolls. And yeah, it was fantastic.
Nice. I forgot you're a golfist, aren't you? You do like a bit of golf.
I try at it, yes.
Yeah. Are you any good? Because I hear that I don't want to try it because I think it's like trying crack cocaine. It's just that it ruins your life.
Yeah, it kind of does. I'm getting better. I took a couple of, I found a guy this year and took a couple of classes or sessions with him. He changed my grip. It changed my game. I probably dropped like half a dozen strokes off my score.
Wow.
And the second lesson, so I'm working on aiming right now. So I've got a good solid swing. It goes straight a lot of the time. It's the aiming thing that I'm having an issue with. So we're still working on that. But yes.
I don't know a lot about golf, but I imagine the aiming thing is quite an essential element.
It's kind of important. Yeah. A little bit.
Are you good at putting?
My short game's not bad, actually.
Short game, that's the right word, not putting. Yeah, good. All right, I'm in too deep now. I'm going to get us out into a topic that I'm probably a little bit more au fait with, and probably a little bit duller for the listeners who probably would be more interested in us talking about golf. But I'm joking. Of course, we're here to talk about topics of marketing.
Absolutely.
And I wanted to talk about the term content management system, CMS. Now, you and I could talk about this term for all afternoon, but I think there's a relevance here to CMOs in that, it was widely recognized. It was a term that was widely recognized in the industry, and to the point that back in the day, a new CMO would mean a new website, and a new website meant a new CMS, and the whole thing was linked together. And the CMO very much understood that. And of course, if anybody's recognizing the folly of a new website meaning a new CMS, yes, back then we threw the baby out with bathwater. But I was wondering whether the term was relevant anymore, because we've had a whole bunch of TLAs, and if I say the word DXP, please don't shout at me again. We've had a whole bunch of TLAs applied to content management. We've got WCM, WEM, DXP, DAM, MAM, and all this other stuff. And nowadays people talk about content marketing platforms. But does anyone care about the daddy of them all, CMS? So I might give you a chance to say something. What do you think?
So I don't think people care about the acronyms. I don't think they ever have.
Oh, no, good, yes.
Right? So we've always, we being the insider industry, analysts, vendors, etc., we push the latest TLA 3-letter acronym. And people don't care. So for as long as I've been doing this kind of thing, it's always been about the business problem. So people will say, we can't publish in a timely fashion, or we're having problems with translation and how to manage it so that it's, all the languages go out at the same time, or even managing, how do we manage different languages of the same piece of content? It's a business problem that they're trying to solve in terms of content. Right. And then you start looking at what is the right technology for that. Now that's evolved over the years. And certainly CMS 15, 20 years ago was the thing, right? Everybody, because if you didn't have a CMS, you couldn't publish. That's not the case anymore, right? No. There are so many other things that interact with the glass. And so it doesn't matter what the technology is, as long as it's solving the business problem.
If I was a diehard CMS person, and as I was on the board of CMS Pros in 2013 or 20 something, I should really push back on the fact that when you're saying there are so many other ways now to get, I think those other ways have just been given a different name. They're actually content management systems, aren't they?
You know what? I would agree with that. Yeah. So they are a different version of content management system. Yeah. So, we get into then is from a content management system. And I think you were going to bring this up, the post that Irina had, right? Yeah. So what's the difference between CMS and WCM? Well, I guess truly, CMS, you're managing content, and whether that is going to touch the glass, whether it's strictly managing in the back end, it could be to multiple surfaces, whereas web content management maybe truly is just to the website, right? Maybe that is it's the .coms, the .orgs, .nets, whatever it is. So maybe there's the distinguisher, but we didn't have that conversation to have 15, 20 years ago, because there was only the website was the only digital thing we were talking about, except for if you think about the intranet, which people still don't care about. So
yeah, well, we have mobile. But what, that post was funny because, so for listeners who don't know who we're talking about, in our little inside baseball conversation, Irina Gaseva is actually a Ghana industry analyst.
And
but
brilliant.
We've known her for ages. And she put a question on LinkedIn saying, CMS versus WCM. And for people who aren't so engaged in this topic as we have for the last 2 decades, basically the response was pretty much a big fat meh. And even somebody said that, and I thought the funny bit was, and we were talking about this before we started, right? Because we were talking about LinkedIn. Someone said they even checked the date on the posting, thinking it was 2005, not 2025, because the LinkedIn algorithm is so fucked up at the moment. It's showing old content. I don't think it's quite showing 20-year-old content, but it's getting that way. So that was a little bit of the trigger for our conversation. But that also leads on to what you were just saying about the multis, because that used to be the thing that would define that you needed a proper grown-up pucker CMS. You couldn't do this with WordPress or any of the page builder type tools. If you were going to talk about multi-language, multi-device, and multi-product, you needed a CMS and you needed something serious, right?
Yeah.
Whereas nowadays, my experience recently is with things like Webflow or even with HubSpot's own content management capabilities. Yes, they're page builders, and so for us purists, we go, ugh, and you're confusing content with presentation.
Yes.
They can do the multis because, and so I don't know where I'm going with this, but it sounds like the classic lines have all been blurred with this stuff.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, back in the day, 15 years ago, multi was, if you had multi in front of your capabilities, that was enterprise muscle, right? That got people excited. It's like, oh my gosh, I don't even know if I need this, but this is great. Absolutely. And now, like you said, the no code, low code tools of Webflow and HubSpot, et cetera, they all tick these boxes, right? Complexity is not prestige anymore, nor should it have been back then. It's really a tax. It makes things more complicated. It's harder to do. It's more onerous to get not just implementation, but adoption, right?
Yeah.
So there's a lot of organizations who are looking right now, there's a lot of audits of technology going on because they're looking for simplicity. What can we get rid of, turn off, whatever it is, so that the way we get from ideation to archive is simpler and people actually do it, right? So it's, the legacy vendors still brag about multi, right? Like, it's like it's 2010. But the smaller teams, the smaller vendors, they're gaining traction because of this simple page builder approach where, the marketer can actually do it all. So for smaller organizations, it works. Now, is it going to work for an enterprise, like a global, multi-brand, multifaceted? I don't think so, unless it's like for a small subset. But, it's making people question.
Yeah, I mean, that was the question I was going to ask you, actually, because it's interesting to know where that line has now been drawn, right? So I was very surprised working with HubSpot. I've created a few websites, and I was also surprised that I could do multi-language. I could do I can do very limited workflow. But these days, if we look back 20 years ago, the message we were selling was the business user wanted to be enabled. It turns out the business user did not want to be enabled. They don't want any more fucking work. It's the same 3 people that are managing the website now as was, or probably in the teams that you work with, Cathy, because you work with big enterprise clients. It's probably the same 20 people that it always has been, right? We haven't got business users, adding content and creating stuff to access.
No, I mean, it's the same argument. I think we talked about this a couple of months ago. Is nobody ever on the business side, on the buying side of the technology, nobody ever wanted to or intended to start in the CMS ever. That was never going to happen, right? So the fact that it took 15, 20 years for, I think Adobe was one of the first ones to go, oh, okay, now you know what? You can import it and it actually works from docs, right? Or from a Word document or from a PowerPoint or whatever. So that's fine, but that's aside. But it's about flexibility and efficiency. That's what organizations are looking for. And yes, it is the same 3 people, except for it's 3 people in the social team. It's 3 people in the outbound marketing team. It's the 3 people in the, the press and AR team. So it's the same, but they're all siloed, right? They're all segmented. And where companies, where we're working with them is, okay, great. You know what? Let's not try and mesh this into one big happy family where everybody's stepping all over each other's toes. Let's actually coordinate it. So we've talked a lot about operations versus orchestration. It's about orchestrating that, right? And when technologies are able to enable that orchestration across the teams, that's where they want to go, right? Workflow, we've talked about it. It's something, and as a project management professional, as someone who believes in process and governance, and anybody who has ever talked to me for any length of time, short 2 minutes, governance and process comes out of my mouth, right? Because those are the foundation. And companies weren't looking for the word workflow, they were looking for efficiency.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's one of the areas where, companies, vendors went wrong.
Yeah, I was going to say about vendors. I mean, you're much closer to this stuff these days than I am. But do you see? I'm, through our conversation, I'm sitting here wondering, well, what would the criteria be that you want to acquire a big enterprise content management system like Adobe, rather than these many other tools, some of which we've mentioned already? And do you think the vendors are positioning themselves against that problem that you just described, that actually the large organization, the challenge isn't publishing content and creating a website, the challenge is orchestrating this stuff across a big team? Are you seeing that?
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. That's what's happening. So on several client fronts, we've had a few where we're getting them, we're just at the starting process of them starting to orchestrate their content operations, right? So getting the social team to talk to the outbound marketing team, to talk to the inbound, so it's like, okay, great.
Yeah.
You know what? Start with something like a shared calendar.
Yeah.
Right. And the things, the reasons and seasons elements that every organization has, right?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
Christmas happens at the same time every year. You know what?
Yeah.
Pride month is always June. Easter vacillates and things like that. But there's certain things that that you recognize as an organization, whether it is a national or regional holiday, or whether it's something that you do internally as an organization. You've done it since the dawn of time. So rather than it be a surprise 3 weeks before and, oh my God, we don't have content ready, those are things that you can rally the multiple teams across to start testing out how to do the orchestration, right? Because you're all doing it at the same time already, because it doesn't move. Like that is what it is. You're not about to start talking about Christmas in February.
So I'm hearing that a content orchestration system isn't you wouldn't buy that from one of the big CMS tools. That sounds like a mixture of like Trello or Monday or any of those tools, a shared Google Drive, shared calendar. These are all, it sounds like that we're talking about office automation type tools to get shit done. And it is, and at some point at the very last mile is when it gets into a system that actually publishes it to the web or to social media channel or to the mobile device, right? Is that what's happening here?
Maybe not last mile. Excuse me.
It depends how long the journey is and whether
exactly.
It's
and it depends on what it is and whether it's social or whatnot. Because I think the exception I said earlier, nobody's actually creating content in the tool. Social might be an exception to that, right? People may be actually creating their LinkedIn or their X posts actually in the tool that they're using to publish, depending on the tool that they're using. But from an overall perspective, it's about the coordination of all the technologies, right? So there's no content orchestration technology. The content orchestration or orchestration itself is about coordinating all the technologies to serve the purpose that they best serve for the individual organization, because it's going to be different. It's the same as, the ad nauseum DXP conversation that we've had. That's about getting from ideation to archive, right? Your DXP is actually the whole grouping of all the technologies that you have, in my opinion, that get you from ideation to archive, because that's where you're going. Is ultimately you want that digital experience delivered, and it's a management of that. So orchestration is just, the steps behind all of that to get it to happen.
Yeah, so it sounds like when you approach one of these projects, I mean, I know you well enough to know this is absolutely true. So I'm really answering my own question, is that you focus then on the process and the people and what needs to happen, and then the technology comes in behind that. You don't go in and say, oh, what you need now is Adobe, or name another enterprise content management solution from.
No,
maybe you say,
and a lot of companies
says you need open text.
Yeah, a lot of Oh, that's so funny. Inside baseball again.
Yeah.
No, and like I said earlier, a lot of organizations are saying, okay, how do we do this with what we have?
Mhm.
Right? Because
Yeah,
there's
yeah.
so much technology bloat, there is so much
Yep.
tech debt that they're not,
Mhm.
I think the smart companies are saying, whoa, 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 before we get something new,
Mm.
what do we actually have, both sanctioned and not, right? So what are you putting on
Yeah, yeah,
your own
credit
personal
card.
visa for
Yeah,
$30
yeah.
a month because it's just easier?
Yeah,
And how do we get that aligned so that, you know what,
yeah.
maybe that's okay for what that part
Mm,
is for you to do, and you're the only one who does it, and it feeds into
mm.
great, peace out, right? But hey,
Yeah,
now you can start expensing it because we're going to let you use that. It's
yeah.
about getting your hands around and understanding the capabilities because again, we used to talk about, I think it was around 30% of functionality was used within a technology, right? So if
Mhm.
you had a big
Yeah.
CMS or even small CMS, you were only using, let's say, 30 to 40 as a
Yeah.
generous, because the rest of it was always phase two, which you never get to. I still think that's the case.
Mm, mm.
And the
Oh, yeah,
great thing
absolutely
about
agree.
managed services and SaaS and whatnot is everything is there. It's not like you're building, right? It's not like
No.
on-prem where you had to sort of
Yeah.
build the foundation first. It's there. So you can turn stuff on and off. So
Yeah,
anybody
but
who's,
it's the
CMOs should be talking to
configuration
their
that
vendors.
yeah, it's the configuration that's the challenge, isn't it? Like,
Yeah.
personalization has been the thing we've been talking about for 2 decades, and
Yeah.
technology's changed, but it doesn't make it any less of a difficult thing to implement because you need to really understand your audience and understand your content and make that match, and that's hard because you
Yes.
need to have good metadata and all that kind of good
Yeah.
stuff, but it's not a technology challenge so much these days. But the other thing I was thinking about there, was that, um, is that do you think now then, so people have bought technology based on this vision that this is where they're going to be. Phase two has never happened, and the rest of the world, the tools. I mean, I know we've mentioned there's Webflow, HubSpot. I can mention loads of them, but these page builder tools have sort of come up. Do you think there are people that are sitting on big enterprise content management solutions that could just get rid of that shit and then because they're only using 20% of their capability, and they could just be using one of these page builder tools?
Big enterprises, I don't think so. I think
Ah,
there's so much more complexity and
mhm,
intricacies that you need to consider. And
mm,
I think a lot of organizations, excuse me, have gotten better at using their technology. Uh, I don't think that they're using what they're paying for in a lot of the cases.
yeah,
But again, because of things being in the cloud, it's not being on prem. I think there is more turning on and off that's going
mm,
than there used to be.
mhm,
So no, I don't think in a lot of cases from an overall management of their digital experiences that those types of page builders would work. Do
mhm.
they work for them in a small subset, like maybe
Yeah,
for
absolutely.
small events or
Yeah,
as microsites or things like that?
yeah,
Absolutely.
yeah. Yeah, I think because what I don't, we're not going to get to that point in this discussion, but it just sounds like the point at which one needs to consider an enterprise content management solution. That line has clearly moved from what we used to talk about, which is, oh well, if you need to do multi-language or you need to do multi-channel, then clearly you need to get more serious than WordPress. But nowadays you can do most of that stuff on WordPress. So the other point that I was going to move to was, and I really, more of the fucking buzzwords was headless. And one of the things that used to differentiate us when we were talking about enterprise content management solution versus particularly it was kind of web content management solution was they were kind of like single channel solutions, as you said. The web content management solution was
Mhm.
mainly about building websites. And we had this old expression, COPE, create once, publish everywhere, right? If you
Mhm.
remember that. Is that still relevant, do you think? And do you think headless is the closest thing to the old school CMS that we used to preach?
I do. So
Mhm.
um, I think back then Cope was a dream because there wasn't they weren't using the tools, right?
Mhm.
Everything, and still to a certain extent, a lot of organizations, they're still asset based, right? So the idea
Mhm.
comes from let's create a white paper, let's
Mm.
create a viral video, let's create. So it starts with the thing, and
Yes.
then you retrofit it or you reverse
Yes.
engineer it to get to,
Yeah.
okay, what do we need to do to get there, right?
Yeah.
So again, not to beat the orchestration thing is, but with content orchestration, you're starting with, okay, so who are we trying to reach? What's the
Mhm.
business goal that we're trying to achieve? So what's the coordination there?
Mhm.
What's the measure of success, right? And okay, so then what do we need to meet those criteria? And
Mhm.
so again, so we're going to need video, we're going to need this, that, and you start
Yeah.
with the elements of content or the content
Yeah.
components, and then you move into the creation of the assets, right? So the create once, publish everywhere, it's a modified version of that where you're creating the content components so that they are mix and match, so
Mm.
that you can pull them together. You can do subsets of, you can take paragraphs, you can take quotes out of a long form thing, you can
Mhm.
do any variant of time on a video, et cetera, et cetera. So you're creating the components once, but then those can turn into a bajillion assets depending on what
Mhm.
what you need.
Mhm.
But it does take that that train of thought at the outset. It's slower at the beginning with the planning,
Mhm.
and then you're able to
Yeah.
configure them as you want, as well as transcreate, right? Because now you have foundational components that have been reviewed, approved, they're on brand, all of the things. So you're starting ahead of the game. So you move
Mhm.
faster
Mhm.
afterwards. And it also makes them infinitely more reusable.
Mm. Yeah, absolutely. And this is what I mean, we've talked about you working with an international hotel chain, with multi-brand hotel chain, right? And that's exactly what you do, every day, right? So this
Absolutely.
is, yeah. So that, you're right in that use case that we've been preaching about for the last 20 years, right? Which is the true multis, I should imagine, and personalization thrown in, right? Because it's a B2C application. Yes, and I love these conversations about content. Thank you very much, Cathy. And so, I think the basic premise was coming up with at the beginning was whether CMS is dead. It sounds like it isn't. Certainly not the discipline, which is I'm delighted for my 2010 self. That was when I was the director of CM Pros, which I don't think exists anymore, unfortunately. But we did do that for a while. And what's coming up for you then, Cathy? Have you got, because you said it was event season starting in September, so I think the vacation's truly over.
Vacation is absolutely over, unfortunately. Content marketing world is coming up. Unfortunately, I am missing it this year. I've got
No.
I've got some personal stuff going on that has made me
Oh.
pull the plug on that one, but that's okay. It's still going to be an amazing event. Robert will be there and
Mm-hmm.
many other amazing people. So I will stay tuned
San
on that.
Diego
And
this year, isn't it?
pardon me?
San Diego.
San Diego, yes, again this year.
Mhm.
And then after that, I've got a couple of other conferences, Adobe Max and Dreamforce, and
Mhm. All the ones.
so it's
All the hashtag events.
hashtag
As you-
all the events. Yes,
I get the hashtag in the wrong way. Well, it's splendid catching up with you, Cathy. And I'm hoping you'll join us again in a month and we'll do some
absolutely.
more contenty things in a month's
Would
time
love
and
that.
maybe catch up on some of these events that you've been doing. So thank you very much.
Thank
And
you.
I'll see you then.
All right, cheers, Ian.
Cheers. Thanks, Cathy. Thank you, Cathy. So we've concluded there that CMS is relevant to CMOs. And if you want more of Cathy, spin the dial on the interwebs and you can find Cathy on LinkedIn or at seventhbear.com. And I will, of course, include her links in the show notes. So that's a wrap on episode 287 of the Rockstar CMO effing marketing podcast. Thank you for dropping a dime into your podcasting jukebox and jiving along with us. I've been your host, Ian Truscott, and as well as links to Cathy, you can find links to me, our blog, newsletter, and my new little firm, Velocity B, and all of our previous episodes in the show notes at rockstarcmo.com. Coming up for us here on Rockstar CMO this week, we have Robert back in the bar on Saturday, and Jeff will be back in the Rockstar CMO studio next Wednesday. So I look forward to that, and I hope you'll join us for some of that here on Rockstar CMO FM.
You may know you're listening to this show along the Marketing Podcast Network, but did you know there are other great shows on MPN to help your business? Hennika Watkis-Porter hosts The Entrepreneurial You, empowering entrepreneurs with insights on leadership, business, and success. Hennika, tell listeners what to expect from your show.
So we provide innovative business strategies and practical solutions to common entrepreneurial challenges.
And where can people subscribe?
Find us at hennikawatkisporter.com, as well as the Marketing Podcast Network at marketingpodcasts.net, or search for it wherever you get your podcasts.
You heard her. Go subscribe. This podcast is heard along the Marketing Podcast Network. For more great marketing podcasts, visit marketingpodcasts.net.